Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 325th episode of Real Hawk Talk. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HawkBlogger, and I'm kind of giddy, I got to admit, for this show tonight. This is a really, really fun crew. It is a reunion and a welcome, and I'm going to start with the reunion, and I'm going to get to the welcome. We're kind of build up to the crescendo here. Dayna O'Gorman, I haven't seen you in a minute. It's been like a couple months at this point. At Dayna OG on Twitter. You've been traveling all over. I saw some camping pics. How's your summer going?
It was busy. I didn't plan on the summer to be busy. I wanted to kind of take it easy this year, just go to my Sporting Kansas City games and just be happy, right? But no, that's not the way it works out ever. So I ended up spending 2 weeks in Montana, which is my home state. That's where I'm from. So lots of family and stuff. I got to go to Boston for a fantastic concert, and it was a lot of fun, but I was literally gone almost the entire month of July. So I'm glad to be back home again.
Well, you were missed by me, by our listeners. Everyone's like, "Where is Dayna? When's she coming back?" So it is fantastic to have you back in the fold.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to talk to you about Seahawks stuff as well. Mm-hmm. I know you'll have some Mr. Beige comments, and so I want to see where you are with all that. Alyssa, that'll make sense in a little bit. The next, Evan Hill, at Evan Hill HB. I got to tell you, dude, there's been a lot of questions like, is Evan okay? Is he still exist? I've heard people I've actually heard from people in the Seahawks, is he going to be part of this? If we let you have credentials to the Seahawks, do we have to let Evan be part of this as well? Because we don't want that. So you've made a name for yourself. I don't know if it's a good name, but you've made a name for yourself, man. How are you doing?
I am doing so well. I was going to say, are half these questions coming from the Seahawks subreddit? Where are these questions coming from? Because I have a divided audience in terms of how much people enjoy me or hate me. So
are you sure it's divided?
Oh, I'm pretty sure. You know what? That's fair, actually. It might be 90% hate.
It's all love for me, man. It's all love for me. Seahawks subreddit, not a friendly place for this show. I mean, I'm sure Dana's fine, but they don't particularly like us. I have no idea why. I never spend time there. I wish them all well. Seahawks fans, we're all the same. But dude, it's so great to have you back. You went on a big trip as well, right? You went across the pond.
I did. So I'm actually glad you mentioned this because I found a Seahawks fan. You know how you'll be traveling in some weird part of the world, or you're being some weird niche location, and all of a sudden, and by the way, it's unrelated to Seattle, and you'll see a random Seahawks jersey. This happened to me in Croatia. Okay. So I was off on this island called Hvar, which is about a 45-minute ferry ride from Split, which is a main part of Croatia. A lot of tourists and visitors go there sort of annually during the summer. It's a big thing for European tourists, especially. So I'm on this island called Carpe Diem, which is almost I don't know how to put it, but it's only accessible via boat. There's no roads onto the island or anything like that. And it's called Carpe Diem, and it's basically an island dedicated to a club. Okay. And they do like outdoor music, venues, all that sort of stuff. And there's this day club on Carpe Diem outside of Hvar. And, there were 2 options for the club. It was go from 12 to 10 p.m., take a 2-hour break, or 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. And I'm old as hell, brother. We all know that. So I went for the day pass, and I found this Seahawks fan. I think I posted it on Twitter a few weeks back, or X. And I found this guy wearing a Seahawks bro tank in the middle of this club, in the middle of this corner of the world. And I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So I asked to take a picture of him. Unfortunately, nobody identified him, but he said he was from Seattle. Didn't catch his name. But yeah, I've been good. I've been catching Seahawks fans all over the place. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it's great to have you back. I'm pretty sure that simultaneously, concurrently with when your wheels touch back down in the U.S., Jason Myers missed 3 kicks in a row at practice. So I just thought you should know you still have it after all this time.
I just want you to know that you're a proponent of bringing Connor Williams onto this team, and the Seahawks would need to open up a little bit of cap space to do so. And I'm just saying an extension for Jason Myers would So
bastard.
I'm just laying facts on the table here.
Yes, you are. Well, that brings us to really the star of the show, our special guest, someone who's never been able to join us before, possibly because I've never pronounced her name properly until I actually had to like really pay attention. Her name, folks, is Alyssa Charlston. There's an ST. It's not Charlton. It's Charlston. With Fox 13, and I'm so happy to have you, Alyssa. One of the reasons that I'm excited to have you here, among others, is, you know, I'm a newbie. I'm listening to people like ask questions at press conferences, and every time you ask a question, it's been a good one. And so we really like to highlight folks here that are doing great work, that are helping people, Seahawks fans, like get to know their team better. You are absolutely on my list now for that. So really happy to have you. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I appreciate that. I'm sure people like listening to this podcast are like, oh, the star, who is it? And then I'm less well known than both of these two and yourself. So I appreciate that. That's really nice of you to say. Nowhere near as cool as like any Croatia stories, though. I mean, you took the cake with that, Evan. The closest I got to Croatia was like House of Dragon. You know, like I'm pretty sure King's Landing is taped in Croatia.
Dubrovnik.
But I will say that, yeah, I played overseas, and in Luxembourg and Germany, I saw Seahawks fans everywhere. Like it was actually pretty common. So Seahawks fans truly, they are international, and I'm pumped to join this podcast and talk to all of you guys. You run a very entertaining podcast. That is for real.
Well,
I love
thank you.
Stacey Ross joining your last podcast too.
Well, she carries the show, so it's like we just kind of go in her wake. But I'm sure it's going to be the same with you. I do have to pause for a second because I've started to stream on Instagram as well. We're streaming on like a million different places. I've been playing around. Instagram makes this very hard, but I have a listener on Instagram, Mr. Symes, I think is the pronunciation. It says, how about giving some love to your Instagram listeners? We love you. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. It's like the smallest Instagram channel in like the history of anyone doing this.
Brian, do you even have an Instagram?
We do.
Do you personally?
Well, I mean, this is it.
So no.
Like, no, me personally, no. I have like absolutely skipped Instagram. Like my social media take on Instagram. I've got some deep conversations around Instagram we can go into another time. Like from business side, I was at Adobe. Adobe actually had the opportunity to acquire Instagram and turned it down. Like I got some good stories, but I think Instagram is very superficial. And it's very image based, like not just literally photos, but like it's image and brand. And I kind of find that antithetical to how I like to live. So I just totally ignored it. But unfortunately, Twitter has gone to almost hell. Like it's just so like decaying. And that's not like a political comment or anything. It's just like people have left it to now where I'm like, okay, Threads is gaining steam. I don't really want to switch, but I do want to bring it up, like start. So trying to reach people where they are. That's basically the thing that's going on.
Is the Threads transition tough? I don't know anything about it. And every time I accidentally click on it from someone's Instagram, I'm like, get out of it. Like, I don't know this is a whole other world for me. Like stepping in something.
I'm not an expert. I'll tell you when I've gone into it, it doesn't feel like
it is. Okay.
Wait, Dayna, what do you say?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I love Instagram. I completely ignore Facebook, and so I only do Instagram and Twitter, and Threads it's just like Twitter, but a little calmer. It's a little quieter and calmer over there, but it's not tough. Yeah, it's fine, and it's good that you're on Instagram because Instagram is a huge platform, right? So it's really important that you get in there.
Dayna, this is why you're here to like tell me the things I need to do that I don't want to do, but you know, you're right. You are right. So Alyssa, I want to get started with you. First of all, you mentioned playing. I don't know everyone knows your background. Tell folks like the sports that you were in and how you got into what you're doing now.
Well, I have, a bit of a Michael Jordan story. In fourth grade, I got cut from a little AAU select club team. That inspired me to basically learn one move in the post. What's that?
What sport was that?
Basketball. Yeah. Again, aligning with Michael Jordan.
Just wanted to make sure.
Is very similar to his trajectory. But I learned one move up and under, and that really took my game to the next level. I changed my career, changed my life. I grew 6 inches. That also helped in 8th grade. And I went to, that's when I kind of realized I could play college basketball, is like 8th, 9th grade AAU, and started getting offers and started taking visits. And honestly, I didn't want to go far from home, and I wanted a team with a football team. And UW had a very defensive-minded head coach. I've never been accused of playing great defense, so she was not going for me. And Idaho, the University of Idaho, was just like home. It worked out so well. We won 2 WAC championships and played the NCAA tournament, played UConn, and then I played overseas for a year. And then I kind of knew my dad's a news anchor when I was growing up, so the bright lights, the deadline, the chaos, I loved it all. So I kind of knew I wanted to get into it. And I worked at UW for a little bit and then got the job in Spokane in TV. And that's when I covered Mike Leach, which was an absolute treat. Like, honestly, the best time of my life. Mark Few, Gonzaga, and then got the job here. Aaron Levine reached out and loved working with him. And yeah, now we have a daily sports show, half hour, that started like 2 days ago.
Well, that's amazing. Aaron's also a friend of the show. And so great to know that all that's going on. And people are going to get annoyed with me because we want to get into the Seahawks talk, but I got to ask you, like, what's your take on all that's going on with the WNBA and the Caitlin Clark and the Angel Reese and like the renaissance going on with WNBA right now? Oh,
I'm sitting back and enjoying all of it. And I think they are too. I think early on it was like a lot of attention and no one knew how to handle it. And a lot of media were treating the WNBA with kid gloves, like being a little too sensitive. And then fans were also being too sensitive. You can't say that about her. You can't do this. Like, how dare you say that? Like, if you want attention, if you want to be like the NBA, you've got to be able to take the heat. And I think they can. I think early on it was an adjustment because the WNBA has never gotten this kind of attention. I mean, I think there's like 15 games now that have surpassed 1 million viewers. And I think it was like 12 back in 1997. That was the record. So I think they've surpassed the record now. But Caitlin Clark has played in 14 of those 15 games. She's a huge part of it. Angel Reese is a huge part of it. I'm just loving that everyone comes for Angel Clark.
That's I like that.
There you go. For Caitlin Clark, like in Seattle twice, sold out Climate Pledge, 18,300. But Jewel Lloyd took over. So Jewel Lloyd is what people remember. And she scored like 34 and then 32. So I think it's all fun and games, and any of the drama, I think they're kind of playing us a little bit, and they get us heated up on Twitter and X and Instagram, and I think they're playing it really well.
Well, I just know I've tried to bring it up on Hawk Blogger Morning sometimes. Most people aren't interested in hearing about it. I've watched more WNBA games this year than I have NBA games. It's not even close. So like, and I've never watched before. Like I've watched bits, but when the Storm were winning championships and stuff, and Lauren Jackson days and whatever. But I think it's an amazing sports story if you love sports. What's going on there, and I can't wait for the post Olympics wrap up. Great playoff race going on. A lot of great storylines. So good stuff there. All right, so we're going to get into some Seahawks stuff. We're going to have questions from our Patreon members. If you haven't already given the show a like and click subscribe, please do. I would also really remind you to click the bell to get notified because I'm going live at really weird times, and the only way you're going to know is if you click the bell. So I have to catch up with Dayna and Evan on like where you guys are on the Seahawks right now. Like, I'm going to start with you, Evan, our JD Vance lookalike. Are you sitting on a couch while you tell us this, or no?
Bro, the amount of comments I already see in the YouTube chat about this, I cannot go a single day in my life without getting called Vance Jr., man. It is so bad.
All right. I had to. So where, like, you're traveling around, where are the Seahawks in your brain? Like, where are they? Where are you feeling? How are you feeling about them right now?
I've been counting down the days. I literally have been saying this like in our private group chat. Like, I have been probably not this excited about a Seahawks football season in like, I want to say like 6 or 7 years probably. Like I know there was so much change this offseason, and I think just like boiling it down to a super simplistic level, it feels like the conversations we were having every single offseason were super repetitive. And it just felt like the same topics rehashing. and it didn't feel very new. And I think just from like a pure fan perspective, a new regime, like new players, new coaching staff, like this is just exciting. We have no idea. Well, we have some clue in terms of the direction they're going to go, but just because of the hire aligning with John Schneider at the top. But like, I have so many different questions, thoughts across the roster. I've been watching, so the training camp breakdowns daily and just reading every article I can find. I just like personally, my excitement level is higher than it's ever been. So that's kind of where I'm at emotionally. I'm not sure that's what you were asking question-wise, but like they're dominating my thoughts right now, guys. It's like it's exciting. So
I love it. And it's interesting you say that about the new staff. I've talked to folks. I don't know if Alyssa's noticed this as well. I've talked to folks that are, they work in like admin or office side of the house, like support staff, just casually, folks that are friendly. And the one thing Pete Carroll couldn't do is be a breath of fresh air. Like there's nothing he could do to be a breath of fresh air. And the impression I got, what I've heard from those folks are they love Pete. There's nobody who has a bad word to say about him. Yeah. But they all are like, it feels like we needed this. We needed a fresh start. And so I think that's interesting to kind of hear that from the organization as a whole.
Quickly, I just totally agree. I think it's like he was so good because he was stubborn in his principles for so long. The NFL changed around him and offenses got really impressive. And I think the administration, you just kind of see like Mike McDonald owns this team. They respect him. He commands their respect. And he has some dad moments at training camp where it's like, get over here. Like, you guys are not like, you just didn't see that with Pete. And he also blends in with everybody. Like
he does.
Like you can see Pete from so far away and always find him. Mike McDonald is really hard to find because he's in his 30s and he's built and he looks like a mid-30s coach and he's got like 10 of them on his staff. So yeah, he's kind of where's Waldo.
Alyssa,
go ahead, Devin.
How tall is Mike McDonald?
Shorter than me. He is about 5'9", I would say. 5'10".
I think he might be a little bit shorter than because I think I'm 5'9". I think he might be a little shorter than me.
Okay. He's built though. Like he's got
shoulders, right?
Yeah. Okay. So Ryan's being honest. I didn't want to
well, who knows? I might have crossed him by saying that, but you're totally right. It's funny you say that about blending in, and this kind of I think is going to feed Dayna's beige take. I feel like she's just immediately transitioning that to see he's just blends in like you don't even notice him.
Killer, right?
Dayna, where are you on the Seahawks? As you're starting to get more information about the team and seeing stuff, how are you feeling?
Better. So that should make you happy. Alyssa, you wouldn't know this, but I was not thrilled about all of this change. I was trying to get there and I knew we needed a new head coach, but the thing I loved about Pete was his charisma and the upbeatness and the kind of craziness of the sidelines. And I love that difference from other coaches. And Mike McDonald's not the guy to give that to you. I feel like, though, as I watch more of his press conferences and I see him speak more to the public, that I'm starting to get a feel of his personality, and that does help. Much like you can see like his little intonations when he's excited about something. It's certainly not here, but you can hear it in his voice a little bit. So I'm glad that I'm starting to get to know him. Do I think he's exciting? Not yet, but I haven't seen a game, right? And so I'm waiting to see a game. What I am though, is I'm getting pretty excited, not to the Evan level, not to the Brian level, but I'm getting excited about the way the players are reacting. And I'm excited about the way that they're reacting to the implementation of the new plans and the way that they are, coming back in their press conferences and being like, oh yeah, this is good. And you can see that excitement. And the first couple of days I thought, well, what else are they going to do? Say, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. But no, they're not going to. But now I think you can really start to feel kind of the genuineness. And I think, Brian, a lot of that is kudos to you because you give us kind of more of that emotional level than you get from a lot of other reporters. And I think that that's important for fans like me who really base their feelings of the team on emotion more than wins and losses. So I'm getting there. I'm excited to see the preseason games. I am excited for preseason. I want to see this on the field and see how it works together. Devin Witherspoon's interview today got me a little excited though, because Alyssa, I'm a defense lover. I think quarterbacks get way too much credit. I love defense. That's why I'm so excited about this Hall of Fame class. It's the best one ever. So, but Devin Witherspoon today, he was like, the best thing is that you have no idea what we're going to run. It might be this. It might look totally different. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to see. So I'm excited about that.
I will tell you, Dayna, if you missed Mike Macdonald's press conference yesterday, you should check it out. His another thing you probably weren't going to see with Pete, Mike Macdonald's dad was there. And there was a really kind of cute little interaction. Like, don't ask questions that are going to make me look bad in front of my dad. It was great. And like, he's an intense dude, but I think he gives pretty good answers. And Alyssa, I don't know if you noticed this, but like, I get the impression that he's like analyzing who's ever asking the question as he's like looking through you, trying to figure like, why did this person ask that? You get that a little bit?
Gosh. Yeah, I felt like he was like seeing through my soul, like the first time I was about to ask a question. And honestly, like even with Pete, right before I'm about to ask a question, it's so annoying. My heart rate kind of goes up a little bit just because you're like, how do I phrase this? And then I might end up rambling. So I appreciate you saying that you think I ask great questions because I'm like a nervous wreck inside. But he's got that stare, that intensity, and that, like you said, Dayna, lack of emotion and kind of like stoic. Honestly, he reminds me of my Norwegian grandmother, who's, away. She's a wonderful person, but just doesn't give anything away with his face. And like thinking about part of that, like overthinking who is asking it and why they're asking it sometimes is a dangerous thing because you get defensive, and he's a first-time head coach. He's the youngest head coach in the NFL. So part of me is like, is he overthinking it? And second guessing. That's what I know he's definitely not doing in terms of his defense. He's so confident in that. And I think because he's letting people freelance and anyone can play anywhere, to your point, Dayna, like we heard Boye Mafe say it, I think it's so exciting that he's not just going to say, if you're lining up over the guard or whatever, 2-tech, 3-tech, you have A, B, and C options. You can kind of do what you want, and they're trusting instinct. So I think that's super exciting. And I feel that confidence from Macdonald, even if early on, like he's going to have some of these interesting interactions because he's never been in the head coaching position before.
So I want to build off this for a second, actually, because Brian and Alyssa, you've both been physically on camp the past week or two or whatever it's been. I know, Alyssa, you've been credentialed media for longer. When we talk about Pete Carroll, everybody immediately thinks about the cultural impact that he had on the franchise, how he famously ran his practices. I know it hasn't been a lot of time that has passed in this new regime, but I'm curious to know, and this is a question for you too, Brian, but Alyssa, I'll probably start with you here. Culturally, do you observe or feel anything different just on the practice field there? Like, is there different organization to how things are run? Is there a different climate of mood? Like, is there any difference there? Because obviously Pete Carroll was known for how he famously ran practices and just the cultural vibes around it. I'm curious to know, how has that changed so far into this new regime?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, honestly, a lot of people have been writing about it, but the first thing that's obvious is the music is just quieter. And you used to see guys dancing here and there, kind of off the field. You see it very rarely. I think I can count on, like, for sure one hand, maybe even just 2 fingers, how many times I've seen guys just kind of like breaking down and dancing a little bit. You saw that all the time with Pete Carroll's practices. And I think he liked that because he wanted you to let loose and feel like you're being yourself. This is truly going to work and doing your job business-wise with Mike Macdonald. And you hear the defense way more. That was one of the most frustrating things I think that we heard Bobby Wagner say frequently. We heard people asking Jordan Brooks all the time. And I heard guys like Dave Wyman saying, like, there's some sort of communication that's not happening here on this defense. And that's some of the stuff that was going a little bit stale with, like, this defense isn't talking to each other. And it sounds like a corny thing, but from someone who played basketball, that's what gets you on the court. Coaches love that. And the older you get, sometimes the less you do it, especially in college, it doesn't seem like a cool thing. but it is game changing. And some of this defensive stuff, I think of as like a matchup zone. Like we tried to run some of the Syracuse, like Jim Boeheim 2-3 matchup zone, and it's so complex. But once you start talking through it, sometimes you confuse yourself and it just works because the offense is even more confused than you are. So there's a tempo to it. I think early on, he was honest. He was like, I don't really know how to run practices. So I'm going to kind of learn that about myself as we go. And there's a good tempo to it. Tyler Lockett called out the tempo for being a little bit more up tempo and quicker 2 places. But Brian, I'm curious to see what you think too, because it's clear that there's a little bit more of a focus, but also all the guys that were there are still fighting for their jobs again. And all the new guys there, like nobody has a resume with Mike Macdonald pretty much. I mean, you had a resume with Pete Carroll and what you've already done. Everybody has to prove something to Mike Macdonald. So I feel like that contributes to the atmosphere too.
Yeah, I think you said it really well. A couple things that stuck out to me. Tyler Lockett, I think, really said it well in one of his press conferences where he talked about, I think it was actually another interview. He said, if you are a player that has just a lot of self-discipline, you manage yourself, you can thrive under Pete Carroll. If you're somebody that needs someone else to kind of get you going and keep you on task, he's not the best coach for you. And the reality is that, like, there's different people in different situations. And I think of Pete as, I've probably been watching too many episodes of The Bear, but like, it's like food, right? Like great chefs, like they edit, right? They remove things, they remove a lot of structure, and they just leave the ingredients to really just shine on their own. But if the ingredients like are not excellent, then it doesn't matter. Like the dish sucks. And I think that's kind of where we were left with Pete Carroll over the last few years. And so what I'd say, generally agree with what you said, Alyssa, but I wouldn't want to paint the picture that it's less spirited or like there's less energy, because I see a lot of energy. Like the defense, like I see Kayvon Wallace just constantly talking and getting people. Devin Witherspoon is absolutely John and jumping around. On 1v1s when people are freaking out on offense and defense. So there's a lot of energy building on that field. And I think, again, I would recommend for folks that didn't see Mike's press conference yesterday, asked him about the belt and hear him talk about the belt that he's introduced and what it means and the smile on his face and what it meant to the players, and Charles Cross walking out there with it. Him doing these 1v1s with the entire team, watching these guys, I think was a great energy builder. And like, I think a lot of the guys wanted to be involved in that. I think the mystery situation that they've introduced where Leslie Frazier is like, they just announced, okay, right now, here's the situation. And Grubb and McDonald have to actually adjust their coaching. There's a lot of things that I think he's infusing into these practices to create, ironically, a very competitive environment. And I honestly, I feel like as much as that was Pete's mantra, I don't feel like that was the environment for like a number of years.
Okay, I've got to ask a question about this belt. Is this like a WWE belt that a certain general manager may have worn at some point in some like lifetime ago, potentially, hypothetically, theoretically?
Is it the same one?
I don't think so. No, there's multiple belts.
Legitimately like where my mind went to. And I thought about tweeting that, but I didn't want to get an angry DM.
No.
So.
I know John does not like that picture and is not happy that ever got out. So
I think honestly, Aaron found it because I saw it on his computer today. Aaron Levine, he might be doing a side-by-side of it tonight.
I'm going to need a screenshot comparison.
All right, Dayna, I know we only have Alyssa for a little while longer. Let's get into some Patreon questions. While Dayna pulls those up, patreon.com/hawkblogger. Easy way to sign up. Gets access to the Slack channel where you ask questions every week. Also gets you the audio version of all the Hawk Blogger mornings and other pods that go on ad-free, audio sweetened and naturalized or equalized, I think is the right term. So all that fun stuff. Patreon.com/hawkblogger. Dayna, take it away.
All right. So this one is for Alyssa. There's actually 2 in here, so we'll start with one at a time. It's from Isaac. Thank you, Isaac. It says, for Alyssa, what are your first impressions of the new coaching staff? Like the whole staff.
Yeah, I think we've covered some of it, but now that we're talking and hearing a little bit more from what Brian was saying, I remember a few players also mentioning that it feels a little bit more like a college atmosphere, and it has that competitiveness, that juice that as a professional, so many guys have families, so many guys just want to get back to their home right after, but it feels like people want to be there for this because it feels like a changing of the tide. Ryan Grubb, I covered the Huskies extensively last year. I couldn't have more respect for him. And he's coming into this with a really humble attitude. He wants to do all the work to make sure his offense performs well in the NFL. And Tyler Lockett said of the offense, like some of the routes that we're going for, when we're going for the sticks, like we're going for the first down, it's 3rd and long, or it's 4th and whatever, and we're going for it. Ryan Grubb has plays where you have the sticks option, but often there are routes off of the sticks option that are more open and they're explosives. And when he said that, I immediately thought of UW going for it on, I think they went for it on 4th down in the Apple Cup to seal the game. And then there were multiple times in the Oregon game where he had these gutsy 3rd down calls. And again, I think NFL defenses will adjust to it. So I think this coaching staff is going to learn a lot this year, but both of the offense and defensive minds are so predicated on bringing the best out of whatever player they have, because the Baltimore Ravens, you guys know, like we didn't really know who Justin Madubuike was before this crazy sack season that he just had, making everybody around him better, right? Like having linebackers push a lineman out of the way so that guys like Madubuike can penetrate and get sacks. I just think there's a creativity there, and you may not be the best player in the NFL right now, but we're going to make you good and we're going to exploit your strengths. That's what I really like about this coaching staff. They're not going to wow you and like make you feel really great after a press conference like Pete Carroll did. Honestly, I felt like he was like a motivational speaker. And I felt good after talking to him always. But I think this coaching staff is very humble, very young, very coachable in themselves. They want to coach each other up. And then you've got Leslie Frazier, who has such a good mind for the game. Like you mentioned, he's doing these mystery scenarios, throwing him at the players, and nobody has more defensive experience. I mean, played the game at a really high level, had the stats. I know his career was short, but then coached, and he's just been so involved that they have the young and the new. So that's why I feel really good about this coaching staff.
Awesome. All right. The second part of that question, this is the perfect little segue. It's like, any chance of a Leslie Frazier interview in the near future from either one of you? He's been kind of quiet. Like, I know he did the one interview, but we haven't seen a ton of him.
That's a good, I like hearing that. Like, and all of us can do that, but I will now try very hard because we have to request like 3 players and we get 1, you know, the deal. Like, you got to prepare for 3 and you're like, okay, you're getting 87 today. I'm like, cool. I did not really prepare for Noah Fant, but we'll just do it.
Okay.
But I'll take that to heart.
I'll I'm sorry. I lied. There were 3 in here. Isaac would like to know what kind of espresso machine you use at home and what's your favorite drink. Do you have an espresso machine at home?
I'm wondering
something I don't know about.
I've done a story with an Isaac who was a Seahawk fan who was like really involved in this cool Pete Carroll ad saying thank you with the Seattle Times and like raised money. And I'm wondering if this is him because I feel like I don't know how many people know that I have an espresso machine and a strong coffee addiction. I do have an espresso machine. I got one as a gift, and then I swindled my parents into giving me their actual espresso machine because I was like a barista back in the day, part-time when I was going to school still, like thinking I wanted to go into nutrition. So my coffee addiction was so strong that I became a barista to help pay for it. And now I can't do that. So I spend too much money, and it's more reasonable because I do have a Breville. It's a Breville espresso machine.
That's what I have too in my house. Gotta have it. Oh, for sure. Have to have it. I'm not paying for somebody else to make that. All right. Okay. So sorry. Okay. Let me give this one to, Brian, I'm going to give this one to you. It's from Boca Hawk. It says, do you think Coach Grubb will call plays up in the press box or on the sideline? Do you have a preference? If so, which?
That's an excellent question. I don't have a feel for it yet. I think it's really cool. Grubb has introduced the notion that he uses the headsets during practice, and so the coaches are calling in plays through the helmets. And at UW, he was always in the like up high, I thought, so in the box. I assume that's where he's going to be, but I don't know. Like, I guess we'll find out. Alyssa, you have a stronger point of view?
No, I think you're totally right. We haven't asked him that, and that's an important question. You're right. He was always up in the box during UW games. I think he really likes to see everything going on beneath him. So I think you have it spot on. I didn't know the headset thing during practice though. That's cool.
Yeah, it is. It's a cool little. McDonald said it was Grubb that brought it in.
Nice. All right, Evan, this one is for you. This is from Hawks fan Matt. With the amount of recently hired defensive-minded head coaches, as well as the fact that scoring has been going down the last couple of years, do you think the pendulum might finally be swinging back toward a focus on defense, at least a little bit? High-flying offenses are fun to watch, but I miss a good defense. That's right, Matt.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it still feels like rules are so slanted towards offenses in the NFL. And obviously, like over the past decade, there's been like a total rush on hiring offensive talent, right? And we saw what happened with Ben Johnson with the Lions this past year, who was pretty much the most heralded offensive mind in the league. So it makes me wonder, if the pendulum might be shifting backwards or back the other way a bit. I'm not sure I have a good answer for this. Brian or Alyssa, do you guys have a perspective you'd like to add here?
Alyssa?
I think you should go first.
So my take on this is, I think it's a misnomer. And in fact, you've kind of stolen a question. I'm going to ask a question like this to Mike Macdonald. There's a lot of talk about offensive coaches. Dominates media, NFL in general. Yeah. But a lot of the best coaches that have been hired recently are defensive-minded coaches. And there's also this misnomer of like, oh, if you have a great offensive OC, they're going to get hired right away. Well, Mike Macdonald was a great DC, and he just got hired away. D'Amico Ryans was a great DC, and he got hired away. Robert Saleh was. So, like, I think if you're a great coordinator, guess what? You're going to get hired away. So I think that this is overplayed. I think what matters is, where is the talent? And I think there's been a lot of bench strength on the offensive side. I'm curious, over the next 5-10 years, Mike Macdonald already has a larger coaching tree right now than Pete Carroll ever did in the NFL. The amount of his guys that are DCs at other places is pretty significant. So if this defense takes root, I think you could see a Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay I'm a huge fan of Adam Dirty. I had a nice quick conversation with him today. I think AD is going to be hired away. He could be hired away faster than Ryan Grubb. I think that would not surprise me.
Ooh, hot take. I'm kind of curious about like what happens there. I don't know enough about Adam Dirty. I want to talk to him more. Evan, I think we will see in the next 2 years offense. I'm kind of predicting it. Just offense to slump a tiny bit, just because corners and safeties are going to get smart with these rules. Like now that I know the hip drop tackle rule is new this year, that will, I think, make quite a difference. But especially with the penalties and how offenses take advantage of the penalties and obviously extra yardage. But I think I totally agree with Brian. There's so many good defensive minds right now, and you have to have that next, like even Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan were kind of along the same tree as well offensively. And we don't really have that next generation, that next wave, because Andy Reid is getting a little bit older, and that's the best offense in the NFL, Kansas City Chiefs. Even though Patrick Mahomes had the fewest weapons around him, like that was still it ended up being the most explosive offense. Their defense did enough to shut down Kyle Shanahan's ideas. We don't really have that next wave of offensive minds unless it is someone like Ryan Grubb. I mean, honestly, he could be kind of one of the people to start it along with Ben Johnson. I'm really curious to see what happens. And I think we need another wave of dominant wide receivers that have personalities that the NFL wants to continue to like, hey, people love scoring, but they also love wide receivers. You got to take away some of the celebration, taunting penalties. I think you have to let people be expressive and have fun. If you want offense to go up, I think that just pumps up the whole team.
I knew I liked Alyssa.
I want to mention one thing that you just kind of alluded to, Alyssa, and this is like a sensitive topic a little bit. DK Metcalf, Mike McDonald. How's their relationship going to be?
I was just having a conversation with someone on the sideline about this like 2 days ago. I think it's going to be really good.
Why do you say that?
Because Mike McDonald is old enough to be respected by DK, but he's young enough to be like, okay, this guy kind of gets me. And we saw Tariq Woolen and DK go at it. Had to be pulled apart day one. It was well reported on.
Yep.
Gnawing at each other. Okay, next play. I also love Tyrell Dodson was the guy that like brought it. It was like, huddle up. Like the new linebacker who we don't know much about. He was the guy that was bringing everybody together to calm him down on the defensive side. DK was really angry for a moment, went back to the sideline. I don't know if he was taking reps on the opposite side, but I know I watched the next time that DK and Reek were going against each other. DK had no emotion. Reek won the battle. Like it wasn't really a pass breakup, but it was kind of like slightly overthrown and Reek was right there. And the whole defense was going, yeah, Reek. Like everybody was saying, yeah, Reek, like trying to get him fired up and maybe get under DK's skin. DK walked his normal walk, didn't say a word, kept his face straight and walked back to the sideline, didn't say anything. So like, I think that it is just practice, but I don't think Mike McDonald is going to put up with some of the extracurricular stuff. It makes DK to some point, but like he's got to be utilized in other ways and he can't like that killed them at times last season. And I think he was frustrated because the offense wasn't doing anything for like 2.5 quarters.
Totally.
So I think it'll be more effective with Ryan Grubb actually hopefully utilizing him a little bit more.
Brian,
I selfishly want to ask you some more questions about this, but I also want to let you go because I know you've got to get going here in a bit. I had a fun interaction with DK Metcalf today. If you haven't heard about it, you will.
Did you?
He was a little spicy today in the press conference.
Wait, do tell.
Are you sure you got time?
Yeah,
I'll make it quick.
absolutely.
Okay. So it's the press conference started with, I think, Jem Mueller asking like some innocent questions. It was a very weird practice. They were in like shirts and shorts and doing walkthrough and like everyone was like, they're supposed to be in pads. Like what's going on? And so Jem Mueller asked like, hey, like what was it like doing this kind of practice? And DK was pretty dismissive. Like it's practice, like whatever. And then she was like, someone else asked, what about doing a joint practice? How do you feel about that? It's practice. I mean, I've never done it, whatever. Like it was pretty kind of dismissive of all this stuff. I asked a question and I have to admit, I didn't phrase it the way I wanted to, but I asked like, hey, it came out last year that Kyle Shanahan told his players to target you to try to get you to react. How do you want to handle that this year in a way that doesn't also hurt your team? And I didn't want to put the emphasis on putting him on the defensive. That it's like, it's not his fault that Kyle Shanahan was an asshole. Like I have like lost a lot of respect for Kyle Shanahan when I heard that came out, but DK did not like that question. I could see it in his eyes. And at the end of the press conference, I asked him like, hey, what's one thing that you have worked on this offseason to improve? And he looked at me and he's like, learning how to answer bad questions from the press. I was like,
No
okay.
Was he singing when he said it?
Yeah, but I mean, he was like, I knew that he wasn't happy with the question I asked. And honestly, I wasn't really happy with the way I framed it, but it's a very legitimate question for the reason that you brought up.
Yeah.
And so I wish he would, like, it's a pretty easy question to answer too. It's like, we'll settle that on the field or like a million other things.
Yep. Yeah.
But that's why I'm not so sure that this is going to just go as smoothly as maybe we all hope.
Well, I think there will be more punishment for it. Maybe. I think there just was no real punishment with Pete, and Pete loved him to death. And I think Mike McDonald would be like, I really saw some of his like dad energy, honestly, like mad dad energy with some of the rookies, like not really like, I think they were signing autographs when they weren't supposed to yet. They had to do push-ups for a punishment. And That is going to be one of the most interesting things to watch, other than like Sean McVay and Mike McDonald going at it like defense and offense, and Kyle Shanahan offense and Mike, which I'm so excited for. Honestly, that dynamic, DK and Mike McDonald, is going to be fascinating.
Let's hope that he just has such an amazing year that it never is an issue and we can just enjoy it. But I want to let you go, Alyssa. Before we do, tell folks what's coming up. Again, I want people to hear about this like 5 night a week. Is that like what's going on, Fox? It's a new thing. Tell people what they should be looking forward to.
So appreciate it. Fox 13, 7:30. We fought them on the time because 7:30, a lot of games are going on. So I get that. But if you maybe don't have access to Root or you don't have ESPN Plus when a game's there, 7:30 every single day, like Monday through Friday. And we also still have our Sunday night show that's at 10:30 at Seattle Sports Live. This is Washington Sports Wrap. So we focus heavily on the Seahawks right now, but we talk Mariners trades. I had Corbin Smith on the other day. We've got Brian Walters, former Seahawk player. We have different kind of analysts here and there, and we talk all things. Like we had a little bit of Olympics and some national stories, but we have fun with it. We play some games, and then that's honestly our main focus right now. 7:30, not easy, but hey, everybody's got DVR nowadays. So.
It's worth tuning into. Is it required that you wear a coat as bright as Corbin when you're on? Is that a requirement?
Definitely not a requirement. That is his own fashion consultation. He's unique amongst all of us in that.
We were Corbin. He pulled it off. Everyone was congratulating him. His first time on TV, so that's cool and nice to have him on. So, Alyssa, it has been a pleasure. You know your stuff. That is part of why we try to pull in folks here and that to highlight and get people to know who to follow. Alyssa Charlston on Twitter, on X. Other places, and catch the show 7:30 every night. Great stuff there. So Alyssa, I hope we can have you back. It's gonna be fun this season. It's been great getting to know you a little better, and thanks again for coming on.
No, I would definitely love to come back. Thank you guys. Appreciate you having me on. That was fun.
Awesome. All right, everybody. That was Alyssa Charlston of Fox 13. I think an up and comer, certainly in local media. Hopefully we get her for a while because there's a lot of folks that just are like talking heads and they actually don't know, but you could hear she's paying attention to the interpersonal stuff. She knows her stuff about the league. That's what we've got a lot of folks on this show that are like that. And I think we just added another. So that was cool.
How long has she been credentialed media for?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. It's a couple of years, maybe.
I think a few years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something like that. Dayna.
Yeah.
I think we probably weren't done with patron questions. Are any others?
We were not. Yeah. All right. So this one is from Jason A. This, Brian, it is for you. It says, is there a long-held perspective that you have held? Is there a long-held perspective that you have held as a fan that has been changed by being credentialed accents? Basically, has anything from your fan accent changed from your perspective because you're credentialed now?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That is a good question.
I think my impression of the PR team for the Seahawks, and maybe that's just like an easy thing because they didn't have to provide credentials. They don't do this for everyone else that's got credentials is with a major media platform. I'm kind of an independent. I mean, Maz Vida is an exception to that, but Maz comes from a background where he worked for some major platforms. So they had prior relationships. I just didn't expect for them to approve credentials at all. And then when they did, I was like, I just want to be able to ask a couple questions at press conferences and attend practices and take notes. That's mainly what I want to do. And then I was like, wait, I can request daily to talk to a player and you're going to bring them out to me? And I'm like, cool. So, I've been talking to players. They've been really great to work with. And it's not just the three head guys, Dave Pearson and Rich Gonzalez and Jeff Garza, but they have a whole group of some interns and folks that have been working with them for a while. And it's a cool crew. So I think that would be, if it's up to me, one of the things I would love to do over time, I'd love to actually interview people that are not players and coaches. I'd love to interview the chef. I'd love to interview different office staff folks and just kind of like the organizational stuff, because I think like the organization has a personality to it, and there's a lot of people that make Seahawks football possible. I told Dave I wanted to interview him, and he's like, no, that's why I've been working here for all these years. But like,
super curious, Brian, if you could put in an interview request for Joey Lane, the new salary cap guy.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Matt Thomas, as we all know, left after like being with the team forever, right?
Yeah.
So be interesting. Unlikely they might provide it, but
yeah, I don't know. But that's probably the thing that's been really cool. They're a good crew.
Awesome. Cap is real. Anyway, just
can we talk a little bit more informally about like training camp so far?
Sure.
But there's only like 3 more questions.
Oh crap! I'm sorry. Continue.
Jeez, Evan, I'm just kidding. All right. So this one is from Brendan. Now that Hawk Blogger is a media mogul, look at you. Does that mean that Evan's shit food takes are intellectual property of the Hawk Blogger media empire now?
We have not signed an exclusive rights agreement on that. Brian has not cut a fat enough check for that to happen yet.
Love it. Makes me so happy. That question made me laugh. All right. So let's see. Either one of you, really, this is from Becky B. I've noticed that all players are wearing Guardian caps at practice this year. Is that a new league-wide rule or something the Seahawks have implemented? You see it all over the league right now.
I'm
the Guardian helmets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a league-wide rule, but the thing that's new is that they can wear them in games.
Yeah, they can. That was the biggest change that they're among
What?
all the other rule changes.
Yeah.
They can wear them in games. From what I've heard, because over at Our Turf, we cover the whole league. I have not heard anyone that says absolutely we are wearing these in a game no matter what. But I think that they are using them in practice just to try and save some of those injuries during training camp. But I haven't heard that anyone's planning on wearing them in regular games, but they are absolutely allowed to. So
I just want to see Tyler Lockett wear that because I feel like that helmet is like half his body. So it's
true. Maybe Jason Myers will wear it. Let's see. That'd be cute.
This is going to be what you're going to see on the field shortly.
ridiculous.
Or the full body bubble. One or the other.
It's wild.
It is a little
I mean, I'm
wild.
sure it works. It's just funny, like aesthetically.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
Sorry.
Evan, I'm going to give this one to you because I think that Brian could probably list off a ton, but Imani wants to know, name a member of the coaching staff that you want to hear more from.
Well, I mean, all we've got so far is Mike McDonald. I have been putting in requests for assistants for a few days and finally was told, no, they're not available yet. So I'm hoping maybe next week that'll happen, but I got a long list. I mean, I want to hear from Adam Dirty. I want to hear from Ryan Grubb. I've got a bunch of questions for both of them. I want to hear from Huff, but I want to talk to Brendan Nugent. I had a great conversation with Christian Haynes today. The interview's up there now for anyone to listen to. Yeah. And unprompted, a little bit prompted, but he really talked a lot about Brendan Nugent. And he's like, he's teaching me things that I've never, about the NFL, I've never known. And he's a badass. And I'm like, I want to talk to this guy. So Kenny DePalomalu, there's a long list. So I can't say there's one. Leslie Frazier's there, but I have a feeling they're not going to really make him available, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
My number one ask would be Scott Huff. I want to see.
Yeah.
There's so many, linebacker gets a lot of attention. Defensive line, the upgrades we've made there gets a lot of attention. Safety cornerback gets a lot of attention. But I really feel this season is going to ride or die based on probably the success of the interior, right? And is Charles Cross going to take a step forward?
We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I think that's a good question. All right. We last question here, Dayna?
Yep, it is the last one, but it's actually the perfect little segue into our next conversation. So this is from El Chapito 509. Is anyone else loving the fact that we have zero idea what to expect this season? first time, all the coaching. And he wonders, or they wonder, I don't know if it's he or she, if this has happened before. I know you guys are excited about this. This is the part that gives me stress, as you guys know. But I think that on the whole, it's kind of fun. And if you don't mind, let me just say this. So like I said before, we cover the whole entire league over at my other podcast. And so I watch a lot of interviews. Our turf football. Yeah. So I watch a lot of interviews from a bunch of different beat writers and all the national media. We cover all of that just so I can be up to date as much on the league. No one, and I mean no one other than God love him, Robert Turbin, when he's on Sirius XM in the morning, talks about Seattle. See, I think that it really is because nobody knows, right? They're like, well, yeah, they got some good players and that team's not starting from scratch, but we'll have to wait till after preseason. Anyway, moving on, because they talk about the Jets, they talk about the Bears, they talk about the Texans, they talk about all these other teams. No one, it is next to impossible to find national media attention for Seattle. And I think this is exactly why, because hell if we know, right? Nobody knows what's coming.
I think you're right. I think Geno Smith contributes to it. I think Mike McDonald being new, Ryan Grubb being new contributes to all of it. And I got to tell you guys, it was like, so I am not a beat writer, journalist, the way these other folks are. I am a fan who knows a lot about the team that's covering them. Like, so I'm not going to be David Lombardi and try to pretend that I'm not a completely biased fan that also has credentials. Like, I am there as a fan. And so the reason I bring that up is because it bothered me that the one day that the entire national press corps descended on Seattle, Albert Breer, Robert Mays, Ian Rappaport, Jeremy Fowler was all on the same day. And it was the one day that it was raining and the one day that the offense could not do anything. The defense played well, but if you just watch that practice, you'd be like, the offense just doesn't look that good. Any other day, I'm telling you, they'd all be walking away with, holy shit, Ryan Grubb, Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, JSN, they are coming for the NFL. And people don't know it, but they're gonna. They would all be walking away, but they didn't. And so that kind of bothered me, but it also, I kind of like when we are forgotten, right? Like let's let the field, the play on the field actually earn the respect and not just, get ahead of ourselves. So kind of goes both ways. Evan, Dayna, let's just talk. What's on your mind? What are you guys curious about? What are you thinking? How are you feeling in general? Like, what's on your mind, Seahawks related?
Dayna, you want to go first?
Sure. I have pretty much just by listening to your reports and some of the other Seattle media, I feel like there's some optimism around the offensive line. There's some optimism around the defensive line. And that's been very encouraging for me because that was one of our biggest concerns. We've been talking about that for a while now, right? Is the depth along that line, that sort of thing. But what really got me, because I wondered how much this bugs you, Brian, is you've been very complimentary about Derek Hall. And I know that was not who you were last year. You were like, what the hell with this guy, right? And so that makes me wonder, we had such a good class last year, and that year 1 to year 2 step is so huge. He seems to be making that step. Are you feeling like everyone else is too? Like, I know Witherspoon today is like, yeah, it feels the same. It's different, and he knows it. He's just being a kid. But it's like, so should we be even more encouraged by that class than we even were last year as rookies?
And how much of this has to do with you fantasizing about his legs every single day?
Oh my God. I got to say, I mean, the guy knows what he's got. He wears these little like hoochie shorts. I don't know, like
hoochie daddy shorts.
He does. And I mean, he's got these just comic book legs, but that's kind of the funniest side. But what's really got my attention is watching him his agility, watching him being able to run the hoop, be able to get around corner, because he was such a straight line rusher coming out of college. He basically had one move. He would just like try to bull rush you, stiff arm you, straight arm you. And I just saw him as a stiff athlete. And like Bruce Irvin was a great athlete, but he had kind of a one-trick pony pass rush, and it made him a very limited pass rusher over his career. Derek Hall looks like he is ready to have a little bit more than that, and he also looks like this is a very good fit schematically for him. I think even if, let's say, he just has his power game, you pair that with the kind of two-man games that Mike McDonald favors with defensive linemen and edge players, you get Derek Hall coming and looping around Leonard Williams or Byron Murphy or what have you. I think that really can open things up for Derek Hall. So I've taken him off my bust list. I don't think he's going to be a bust. And I'll also share one thing that might have slipped by people with the Christian Haynes interview today. I asked him who's impressed him on the other side of the ball, and he said they're all good, but the guy that's been toughest to go against has been Byron Murphy. That got my attention. That was good to hear. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
I'm just looking back at the photo you posted. Those shorts are shorter than I realized. Those are like 4-inch inseam. Can we? That's a good call on Derek Hall, by the way. Can we talk about Abe Lucas? Like,
yeah,
man, I really thought I thought we'd have more positive news by now. Is this bad? Like, is he going to be available for week 1? Like, am I overreacting? Am I being outrageous?
So we're not allowed to talk about what we see with injured players. So I can't give you any details, and I'm like not basing this off of anything other than just my general feel. I think Abe Lucas is going to come back. I don't think this is like a career threatening kind of thing. It's taken longer than they want. It could go into the season. Like, it's possible, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't. I wouldn't be surprised if it does. I would be surprised if it lasts more than like 4 weeks into the season. And that when he comes back, I think he'll be full strength. And I think that's all that matters, because George Fant,
yeah, right,
he's perfectly fine out there.
Yeah.
And then McClendon Curtis has been pretty close to perfectly fine out there. And then Mike Jarrell, who's their 6th-round pick out of Findlay, I think he's going to make the roster right now. Like, they're very excited about him. So I think that you compare that to last year when you're talking about 41-year-old geriatric Jason Peters and Mike, what is his name? Jake Curhan and Stone Forsythe at times. Anyway, it was a shit show out there, right tackle. So I just think I don't think it's as big of a deal exactly when Abe Lucas comes back. And when he comes back, I think he'll help the team.
Is linebacker? Sorry, go ahead, Dayna.
No, I was just gonna say I love that Jarrell is getting a little shine. I love those late round picks. I love the small school guys. I love that when they come in and prove people wrong. And so when I was reading your articles about him, I was like, yes, I want to see that. I love that.
Yeah,
because this is what Seattle used to do, right? They used to go find these guys in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, and they would become superstars. And so they lost that for a while. We weren't seeing that quite as much. And so now I love that. I'm like, oh, they dug a little deeper with this one. That makes me happy.
Before we go to your question, Evan, I want to touch on that because I think it's a great point, Dayna. It's not just that the Seahawks used to do that. If you look at the Rams the last 2 years, everyone's like, oh, the Rams have just really come back. They didn't do it with 1st and 2nd round picks. Some of those were that, but like Byron Young, Puka Nacua, like they blew up with 5th, 6th, 4th, whatever round picks. And if you look back at teams that really pop, it's often 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round players. Freaking 49ers got the last pick in the draft, who's turned into one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So you have to actually hit on late round picks. in order to have that big influx. And so, yeah, I'm hopeful about Jarrell. I'm not as hopeful about Laumea. I'm not as hopeful about the two corners. But, we'll see. What were you asking, Evan? I think we cut you off.
Oh, I was going to ask about linebacker, but then I got sidetracked in my brain with the Julian Love extension today.
Yeah.
That was
talk to people about that. Or talk to you looked at the numbers that came out. What's now the case relative to the cap? What did you see in that contract? How do you read it?
Yeah, it's a pretty reasonable deal for Seattle, frankly. So just looking at the net change this year, cap impact wise, it reduced. So the extension reduced his 24 cap number from basically 8.1 mil to 6.5, saving about $1.6 billion in cap space. The deal includes $18.6 million in new guarantees. That's basically the signing bonus and an option bonus, which is basically the same thing, and then his 2024 base salary. So it was a 3-year extension, so through 2027. His cap numbers are as follows: 6.5 for 2024, 6.1 for 2025, which is low, guys. And then 2026, 13.2, 2027, 15.2. Probably unlikely he ever sees that 2027 number. If he balls out for us, they'll just extend him again. But there's an easy out here in 2026 if they want to cut his deal short. So there, it's reported as a 3-year, $33 million deal, $18.7 million in guarantees. This is pretty reasonable considering it sounds like he's going to have an expanded role in this Mike Macdonald defense. So I know there's a lot of concern about it, but you're paying this guy $25 million total cap number wise, not cash flow wise, but cap number wise over the next 3 years. That's not that bad. That's pretty good. So.
And I think if I read it correctly, they're opened up. Now we're up to $10 million in cap space. And so that's the perfect size for a center, don't you think? Pretty please. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So just real quick though, you're right, Dayna. But that's before budgeting for IR, practice squad, all that sort of miscellaneous stuff. So, but your point is right. I think where you're going is Connor Williams. I think they could, depending on what his expectations are. I don't really know what he might command because of.
Yeah, I will tell you, and you guys know this already, but people just want to hear good. They don't want to hear anything that's even moderate. And so on my show this morning, I said that Olu has not looked like the guy so far. He is getting. I've seen him get walked back in 1v1s multiple times. He just doesn't seem to have the strength to anchor, I think. And I wonder about his ability to get the push in the run game. I think he's going to be fine. I don't think he's a disaster. He's not a disaster, but I don't think he's going to, I was getting this hope that maybe he would develop into a good center, an advantageous center.
Yeah.
I don't see that yet. And I think people are well, give it time. You've only seen a couple padded practices. Sure. But he's going to have to change who he is physically. This isn't a mental error. This isn't a technique thing.
Yeah.
And so that's where, for me, I have some tempered expectations. I also think Connor Williams is excited, and as much as I'm pushing this for people, he's coming back from a serious injury. We have no idea who he's going to be this year, when he will be this year. So I'd like to see them sign him, but I don't think that he comes in and all of a sudden just saves them at that position.
Olu, though, do you see him possibly as being kind of that Swiss Army knife? He could slide into a couple of different roles, be that kind of perennial backup. I hate to say bridesmaid, but you know what I mean? That could just come in. It's we can fit him here for a few plays if we have to. We can fit him here. Or is he only a center?
I think he's only a center.
Okay,
I think he's only got the body for a center. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think he could be a perfectly good backup center. But I don't know. We'll have to see. Let me get to this super chat real quick from Axel. Axel's been asking about tight ends for like days. Axel, I am going to try to talk to either AJ Barner or maybe Brady Russell tomorrow. Brady Russell is fun. I kind of hope I get him. Is he our
new John Ryan with the long red hair?
I think he might be the new Nick Ballore or Luke Wilson. Even better. Like I think he's the leader in the clubhouse for that. So he looks like he comes from like Animal House. Like that's the vibe I get from Brady Russell. I will just tell you quickly. The reason I haven't written more about the tight ends is there hasn't been that much to write. Noah Fant has caught. I mentioned him. He's been involved. AJ Barner, Pharaoh Brown. Those are essentially blocking tight ends, and so they've been blocking and doing fine doing it. They've caught a couple passes. I've mentioned those in the notes, but like AJ Barner doesn't look to me like more than a blocking tight end that will occasionally catch the ball. He does not look like Will Dissly even from a receiving standpoint. So I think they're going to be fine to have, good guys to have on the team, but I don't think Brady Russell is the guy that to me is kind of like, whoa, he's a mover. He has a lot of speed. I think they love him on special teams. I think there's a chance he could make this roster, a good chance. Jack Westover, who I know a lot of people are interested in. I think Jack's doing fine. He hasn't made any plays of note. But I still think practice squad is like the best chance for Jack Westover.
Interesting. I think it's
who else is standing out like as a surprise to you both on the roster? Just like a week and a half into training camp. Like this is where I was going to go earlier. Is linebacker as problematic as kind of everybody assumes?
Yeah, Dayna, I don't know if you have any like things that you've been reading or hearing about that. I think my perspective is I think it looks fine.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to say that Jerome Baker's missed a couple days. I think Tyrell Dodson looks good. But it's too early to say. I still think like Tyrese Knight looks okay, but there hasn't been anything where I've been like, oh boy, we're in real trouble there. Or like, oh man, we've got a real steal. It just has been okay.
I think the best that we can be happy about right now is that they're actually on the field, right? Because we were worried about that. They did pass, their physicals, they can actually be on the field. And so because of that delay, I think that we're going to have to wait and see. First of all, we have to wait and see how they're going to be used in this scheme, right? And we can kind of assume by the way we watch the Ravens play, but I think that we need to see how that, and do they need to adjust? I think Seahawks fans have been very spoiled by very good linebacker play for a long time. And this is going to be different, and how they use them is going to be different. But I think the best now that we can be is like, okay, they're on the field. They can be learning the system. They can be there. And so let's wait until preseason game 2 before we try to start to make any adjustments or any opinions about that, just because I think that we have to actually see them get to full strength at that point. But
okay, I got a question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You get 1 or 2 questions for anybody on the Seahawks roster or coaching staff. Who are you wanting to talk to, and what do you want to ask?
Everybody.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
I would like to know how aggressive. This is maybe an easy and obvious one. Maybe it was you that mentioned this, Brian. I forget who did it, but impact of analytics on 4th down decision making.
Yeah, I asked Mike about that yesterday.
What was his response?
It was good. In fact, I'm going to talk about this on the show tomorrow morning. I asked him 4 or 5 questions yesterday, and all of them like I thought he had some interesting answers. But he's like, good data is good data. He wants to be aggressive, but we have to prove that we can be good in those situations. So check. Like I didn't expect him to like give us a manifesto of how he's going to make those decisions, but.
Sure. But that was an area where we all, I think mostly all of us, criticized Pete over the past several years is he became very he lost the big balls Pete, sort of mantra.
It's true.
Well, Dayna's always got her abacus out, like talking analytics all the time. So
it's true. All the time. I look up all the numbers. It was so funny. As a little side note, we were watching the women's gymnastics last night, and it was so funny. You know, Simone Biles' husband, Jonathan Owens, he plays football. He's a professional football player, and he's got his pen. He's writing down all the stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's an analytics football player. It's like, it was so obvious. He wanted all the numbers. It was funny. No, I think that I would really like to talk to Dirty. Because the defense part of me, I want to know what his, mindset is here. I want to talk to him about his West Ham fandom, because I too am a West Ham fan, so I love that. But I really want to I would love to know where he feels his role is, and you're not going to get an honest answer out of this, but I would like to know where his role is when you have Mike McDonald running this defense. Where does he fit in? What does he do? I saw a couple of the videos that you posted of him running those drills. I thought that was fantastic, very hands-on, and so I want to kind of know a little bit more about that. And then, to be honest with you, I would want to talk to a couple of the veteran players who had been around Pete for a while. And now under this, was that a hard transition? I'm all about the feeling, right? And so I want to know, was it a hard transition? What did you think when you heard about this transition? And, once again, you're going to get the raw answers, but I would love to know kind of that real depth a little bit. And so from Tyler, who seems to have been, he seems to be real honest about, how this went for him, and from DK and from some of those other players that have been around a minute. And then I would want to know how Gino feels about this offense, and is he excited, and how is that going to change for him? So yeah, literally I could make you a list of 60 questions, because that's what I want to know.
Those are all great.
And I love that, right? Like, I want to dig a little deeper into, and sadly during camp, you don't get quite the answers that you can get during the regular season, because everything is so hidden and it's new and we're trying to be so secretive. But it would be interesting for me to find out from Gino. It's like, do you think this is going to elevate your game? Is this a system that's going to bring Gino from the first year, and raise it even more? Because it's going to definitely be different. And I laugh a little bit every time the Bears fans get so excited. I'm like, really? You know who your host is, right? I'm like, yay, Caleb Williams. But anyway, I really want to see if he has the same level of excitement as so much of the media does about the Grub, offense and what he's going to be doing. He seems to have all the right answers. I'd just love to dig a little bit deeper into that, I think.
I got to say, Dayna, you, and I think a lot of other Seahawks fans would or will love Aden Dirty.
I already did. His first interview, I'm like, I'm in.
Why do you say that?
I mean, I introduced myself today before practice, just shook his hand, said hi. And he's just like, you could feel it in the first interaction, eye contact, friendliness. Like, who are you? Like wanted to get to know me. We're talking about Seattle. I was like, how's it? He's like, yeah, it reminds me of home, like London. It's got some of that same thing. It's like, it's beautiful here. I love it here. It's the best place I've ever been. Just like positive, effusive, smart. You could just feel it all, like high energy. I was energized, and I'm like, bleary-eyed. I've been barely sleeping lately. But anyway, but I came out of that conversation just like ready to go. And I see the way he works with all the guys, and they're listening in a way. Like, this guy's a defensive line coach, worked for Dan Quinn, actually came into the league on the personnel side. So he's actually been on both sides, coaching. And anyway, I just think you guys, like, everyone's going to love him when they get more exposed to him. I think he's great.
That's very cool.
Evan, somebody we had a good one here from Jose Rodriguez of what he would ask.
Seriously, though, a good question is how you feel about that kicker number, right? Like, how do you feel about that contract, head coach? Can we get that fixed?
Oh my God.
I think we should lower his cap number this year with an extension. That's my take.
Your commitment to that bit is only exceeded by Grant Cohen's commitment to the bit that Brandon Ayuk is going to get traded.
So hold up, though. There's something real here with Jason Myers. Every other year, he has a flawless year. So he trades years. Like last year, he was shit.
You're saying he's inconsistent. Yes.
He's inconsistent. He's consistently inconsistent, right? Mm-hmm. So 2022 was I don't think he missed wasn't it one field goal he missed or something?
He did pretty well.
He did on extra points. I think was a little shoddy, but like field goals, he did well. So if the trend holds, 2024, hopefully we're not going to be kicking lots of field goals this year.
True.
That's my hope.
All right, Evan. Anything else that you think you'd ask, or anyone that you'd want to talk to? I'm just kind of curious.
Scott Huff was the main one. Trying to think who else. I don't know. I'm kind of curious. Who's leading the cornerbacks right now?
Oh, who's the quarterbacks coach?
Cornerbacks.
Oh, that's Carl Scott.
Carl Scott.
Yeah.
I'd be curious on his evaluation of Tariq, because last year was a little interesting for him. You know, he had some issues tackling, and I don't know. Tariq had a weird year last year.
He did.
And he's a guy up for extension, right? Guys, like we all know what cornerbacks command, and I do think he has a lot of talent. So I would just be curious to know more intimately what his evaluation of Tariq's offseason was.
I'll tell you a quick story and then we can wrap, because we've kept you guys for a while. But one of the questions that got asked of Mike Macdonald yesterday, I think it was around like how you're feeling about Riq Woolen, and he talks about iron sharpening iron with him going against Metcalf and blah, blah, blah. And then there was like a long, protracted pause, and you could see the wheels turning. And then this is a thing. This is a Mike Macdonald thing. He was like, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but you can tell we're pretty pleased with what we're seeing there. Something along those lines. He does not want to overhype any player. Like, he wants them to have to like earn it regularly, and he doesn't want them to get like juiced up. But the subtext was very clearly they're pretty excited about how he's playing, and they should be. He is having this is his best camp. There's no doubt about it. Physically, he's in a different, like physically he is stronger.
Really?
I saw him make plays in the run game during padded practice, physical plays. And he is like, DK Metcalf is playing like one of the top 5 receivers in football in this training camp. Like, he's playing so well when he's not getting asked questions that he doesn't like. And Woolen is going toe to toe with him. And so I think that the two of them, probably the story of camp, other than Gino, who's just been like otherworldly, but like, you've got two players who potentially have both blue chip potential, maybe helping each other become finally truly blue chip players. So like, yeah, I think you'd hear good things. I think they're pretty positive about what's going on there.
So I'm thinking about getting a new jersey because I don't have any. Actually, I have one current player. It's Tyler Lockett. And I'm thinking the easy pull, like the easy trigger pull, is Witherspoon.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious to know, like, if you were a fan purchasing a jersey soon, who would you recommend? Maybe outside of Witherspoon being an obvious one.
What's the safest? I saw about doing a show on this, by the way, when I was really desperate for content. What do you think the safest jersey is to buy right now for the Seahawks?
It's probably Witherspoon, but if we're like for the short midterm is kind of what we're basing that off of, or
yeah, I don't know. It's a hard question.
I think
Julian Love's a pretty good one right now. I guess it just extended him.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy.
Oh, Byron Murphy's a great one.
Charles Cross. I've changed my tune after the pads came on.
Really?
That kid looks like he's ready to step forward.
Did he add weight, or is he just like?
When I interviewed him, he kind of implied that, but he implied mostly he worked on flexibility over the offseason. Like,
was this boy in yoga all off season?
Pilates.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was a great interview, Brian. Yeah, it was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining this guy. Okay, I want you to picture something for a second. Charles Cross, what, 300 something pounds? I don't know how big this boy is.
Yeah.
This man's in a Pilates class with 25 petite white women all surrounding him. And there's Charles Cross in the middle. And this guy's just stretching his ass as high as he can go with bands. And he's just surrounded by petite white. Is that not just a funny mental picture?
Awesome.
I love that.
I'd be in that class. I'd love that.
I
think when you look at jerseys, you have to look at, are you going for current players that are going to be around, or are you going for legends? Because you can always get a Tyler Lockett jersey, and you know that you'll be able to wear that to any Seahawks game forever, just like the Cam, just like the Sherm, all of those, just like the Bobby Wagners. But if you're going for a current player that you think is going to stick around the most, I think that either Woolen or Witherspoon is easiest. Murphy probably, because you're going to at least get 5 years out of that one. But that's why I don't buy jerseys. Not very. I have 2 jerseys. I have a Richard Sherman jersey, and then I bought a throwback Bobby Wagner, and that's it. Because I'll just go with the legends. Because honest to God, we have seen on this team, careers end in a day. So it's just.
I think the best looking jersey right now is a throwback Witherspoon. Personally, I think.
Oh, that is good. Yeah.
I think that's the best looking jersey. For me, I'm pretty close on a Geno jersey. Like Geno's getting close to my, like, I've transitioned to getting guys that I just like love to cheer for. Like Doug Baldwin was obviously like a guy that I was committed to. I'm close. How
does Evan not have a Jason Myers jersey?
It's a good question.
Serious.
I'm waiting for the extension to make the purchase.
Yeah.
I have kind of an unpopular opinion I need to share with you guys.
I want to hear it.
That I'm afraid to tweet. The throwback jerseys, guys, for Seattle.
Oh, Evan.
They're okay. I'm not saying they're bad. They're just like, they get a lot of hype for being throwback. And I just think they're, I don't know what the right adjective is, but they're sensationalized a bit. They're okay. Like, they're not bad, but like, they're not as good as people.
Here's the closest I can get to not having you be completely out on an island, which I think I usually like to do, kind of push you out to see. But what happened with the throwbacks is it's made our standard jerseys look like shit.
Yes.
They're like, boring. Our standards look like I look at ads for just our normal blue jerseys, and I'm like, ugh. Like, I don't want, like, I used to think they were great, but like, they're not classic. The Seahawks have gone for like the modern style as opposed to a classic jersey that just never, like, the Giants jersey is the Giants jersey, and you really should never change it. Even the Browns, like, some of these things are just classic.
Yeah.
And the Seahawks jersey is out of style. Like, it's dated. And I think they're going to have to get new jerseys again soon.
Aren't they planning that though? I think it's like in the next couple of years, there were rumors that they're going to.
I heard 2 to 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big deal though, because you have to rebrand everything then. So it's serious.
Well, tell me about it. I got a bunch of brands now that I'm having to redo, and they look all dated. And then the Seahawks are going to redo their brand, and I'm going to have to redo my brand. God damn.
I mean, you're set with the colors, but honest to God, redoing a jersey, even adding a throwback is a big deal. But rebranding completely with all new jerseys, that is a serious marketing overhaul, and it's millions and millions of dollars because you have to redo everything. And so they don't take that lightly. But I agree, there are certain jerseys that the Seahawks original jersey, those throwbacks are classics. But there's some that will never change. You're going to have Dallas. You're going to have Green Bay. You're going to have the Browns, right? Those are all the same. Those look a little dull compared to some of the throwbacks too. And I think that people like the alternative idea instead of necessarily redoing all of them.
What games are they doing the throwback this year? Is it the Cowboys?
I know the 49ers game I thought I heard is
Niners.
one of them.
I think it's the Cowboys game too. I think I heard that too. But.
We do have a super chat from John M429 that says, I know running backs are short-lived, but sometimes K9 on the jersey, could be cool. K9's definitely on that list.
Marshawn.
They're saying he's balling out in camp right now. right?
Yeah, it's a little hard with running backs at camp, even with pads. I'm like, I mean, we'll see. And we're not going to see him in preseason, but I do like the way Grubb uses running backs. And I think he's going to be involved in the passing game. And I love what I heard from Grubb, that they want to use him in third down situations. They're working on him on pass protecting so that he can be available on third downs where he's had to come off the field in past years. So I think those are all good signs. But hey, look, we have kept everybody for 90 minutes. This has been so much fun. I mean, honestly, guys, I have been so eager to catch up with both of you and then to have Alyssa join as well.
Yeah.
This was excellent. So great to see both of you. If you haven't already, make sure you're following Evan Hill at Evan Hill HB, Dayna O'Gorman at Dayna OG. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me at Hawkblogger on Instagram. Yes, Instagram and Twitter. And I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, but please give the show a like, click subscribe, and we'll see you all soon. This has been episode 325 of Real Hawk Talk. Take care, y'all.